All right, we're going to spend the next few minutes unlocking the three big ideas that control pretty much everything you do online. Seriously, they're like the invisible gatekeepers of your entire digital life, and once you get them, a lot of things about security are going to make way more sense. So let's jump in. I mean, think about it for a second. When you log into your email or check your bank account or, post a photo online, how does that website or that app know for sure that it's you and not somebody else pretending to be you? And then once it's sure it's you, how does it decide what you're actually allowed to see or do? Well, that's exactly what we're breaking down today. So here's the game plan. We'll start with what it even means to be someone online. Then we'll dig into the three keys that control all access. After that, we'll put them side by side to see how they're different, and then look at some real-world examples. And finally, we'll talk about why this whole thing is so important for your own security. Okay, so at the absolute heart of digital security, you've got these three core concepts: identification, authentication, and authorization. You get these three, and you've basically got the foundation for how we keep our entire digital world from falling into chaos. First up is identification. This one's the simplest of the bunch. It is literally just you walking up to a system and saying, hey, this is who I am. Think of your username or your email address. It's just a claim. You're not proving anything yet. You're just stating your name. Let's use an analogy to make this really stick. Picture yourself trying to get into an exclusive party. Identification is that moment you walk up to the bouncer at the door and you just say your name. Hi, I'm Alex Smith. I'm on the list. That's it. You've made a claim, but right now it's just your word. So when it comes right down to it, identification is all about answering one super simple question. Who do you say you are? Okay, next up is authentication. Now, this is where the system says, okay, cool, prove it. It's not enough to just say who you are. You have to back it up with some kind of evidence. And this is where things like your password or a fingerprint scan or maybe one of those little codes they text to your phone, this is where that all comes in. So let's head back to our party. The bouncer is not just going to let you in because you said your name, right? He's going to say, all right, Alex Smith, let me see some ID. That moment you pull out your driver's license and show him, that's authentication. You are verifying, you are proving that you really are Alex Smith. So while identification asks, who are you? Authentication asks that super critical follow-up question. Can you prove it? This is the step that slams the door on imposters. And that brings us to our third and final key, authorization. So the system knows who you are and it believes you. Now what? Now it has to figure out what you're actually allowed to do. This is all about permissions, rules, and different levels of access. Back at the party, the bouncer looked at your ID. He's confirmed you are who you say you are. So what does he do next? He looks down at his clipboard, at the guest list. That is authorization. The list tells him not only that you're allowed inside, but maybe it shows you get a special VIP wristband that lets you into the exclusive lounge upstairs. Somebody else might get in, but they're only authorized for the main floor. So this gets us to the last question in the chain. Now that we've proven who you are, what exactly are you allowed to do here? Okay, we've gone through the three keys one by one. Now let's just put them all side by side to really hammer home the differences and see how they work together. And here you can see that whole flow at a glance. It's a really logical sequence, right? First you claim who you are, that's your username. Then you prove it, that's your password. And finally, the system decides what you can do. Those are your permissions. It's really just a simple process of claim, prove, and permit. So the theory is great and all, but let's see how this trio actually works in the technology that we all use every single day. We're going to start with the system that's basically the digital gatekeeper for most offices out there. Let's talk about something called Microsoft Active Directory, or AD for short. The easiest way to think about it is like the ultimate digital office manager. It knows who every single employee is, and it knows exactly what digital files and folders they should and should not be able to touch. So you get to your desk and you type in your username, that's identification. Then you pop in your password, that's authentication. Now once Active Directory confirms you're you, the real magic happens, authorization. It checks to see what groups you're in. Let's say you're in the sales team group. Boom, you are now authorized to get into the sales drive. But then you try to click on the finance folder. Nope, access denied. You aren't authorized for that. Okay, now let's zoom in on one of those shared drives. A network file share is basically a big digital filing cabinet. Not everybody has a key to the cabinet, and even if you do, your key might only open certain drawers. Now, your login to the network already took care of authentication. So now every time you double-click a folder, you're making a new authorization request. The server looks at something called an access control list, or ACL, for that specific folder. It's just a simple list of who can do what. It might see that your account has read permission, so you can see the files, but it denies you write permission, so you can't actually change anything. All right, let's move on to something we all do constantly, logging in to websites. This is really the perfect digital version of a members-only club. So when you put in your email and password, you authenticate. If it's all correct, this server gives your web browser this tiny, invisible little ticket called a session token. You can think of it like a digital hand stamp you get at a concert. So for the rest of your visit, every time you click on something, your browser shows that token. The server sees it, confirms you're still logged in, and authorizes you to see pages like My Account. And for our last tech example, let's look at a database. This is kind of like the secure bank vault of the digital world. It holds the really valuable stuff, and so access to it is incredibly strict. First, an application has to authenticate with the database using some very special credentials. But once it's in, every single thing it tries to do is a new authorization request. If the app tries to read customer data, the database checks, does this user have permission to even look at this specific table? If the answer is yes, the data gets sent. If not, the request is denied flat out. It allows for this amazingly precise level of control. Okay, so we've waded through a bunch of technical examples. Why does any of this jargon actually matter to you? Well, it's because these three principles, they're not just for computers. They actually control security and access everywhere, in the real world just as much as the digital one. I mean, just think about airport security. Your name on the ticket identifies you, showing your photo ID authenticates you, and the boarding pass itself authorizes you to get on one specific plane. Or your office keycard. It authenticates you as an employee, but it only authorizes you to get onto certain floors. An ATM needs your card to identify your account and your PIN to authenticate you, all before it authorizes you to take out your money. See? It's everywhere. So here's the bottom line. The thing to remember is that these three keys, identification, authentication, and authorization, are way more than just tech features. They are the absolute bedrock of digital trust. They have to work together, in that exact order, to make sure the right people get access to the right things. Without them, our online world of commerce, privacy, and security just couldn't exist. And that kind of leads us to a final thought. We're moving really fast towards a future of biometrics, where your face, your voice, or even just the unique rhythm of how you type can authenticate you without you even thinking about it. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What does our world look like when the act of proving who you are becomes completely, totally invisible? Thanks for tuning in.